So we heard the minister saying that he's happy when he tries to do things for the poor people. So let's talk about reskilling and upskilling so we have better jobs, better professional careers, and so the work of our minister will be easier. And Mr. Protopsaltis, sorry. Thank you for the photo. How are you? Welcome. So welcome, and so at the beginning we will speak in English because we have our guest. I'd like to welcome Mr. Egbert Hughes, coming from the European Union, the head of unit for Germany, Austria, ο επικεφαλής, συγγνώμη, για Γερμανία, Αυστρία και Γερμανία, Αυστρία. Αν ακούσαμε καλά, αυτός είναι ο τίτλος σας. Και από τη στιγμή που αντικαθιστάτε την κυρία Geleng λόγω ασθένειας, θα μας μιλήσετε για την κατάσταση που κρατεί ως προς τις δεξιότητες στην Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση. Και όταν λέω κατάσταση, εννοώ τις προκλήσεις και τις ευκαιρίες που παρουσιάζονται. Κατά βάση τον αντίκτυπο που έχουν αυτές τις προκλήσεις στην παραγωγικότητα, διότι τα τελευταία 20 χρόνια μιλάμε για τη βελτίωση των δεξιοτήτων. Όχι, δεν είναι κάτι που το συζητάμε μόνο τώρα. Και αναμένουμε από εσάς, στο τέλος της παρουσίασής σας, να μας δώσετε πιο ξεκάθαρες ιδέες για το πώς θα αντιμετωπίσουμε αυτό το κενό, το χάσμα των δεξιοτήτων και εμπειρίες από τις βόρειες χώρες ή κάποιες αποτυχίες τους που οδήγησαν μετά σε επιτυχία, αν θέλετε, από την εμπειρία σας. Μπορεί να μην θέλετε βέβαια στο πλαίσιο, διότι το φτιάξαμε κάπως τελευταία στιγμή, οπότε μπορεί να μας δώσετε τις δικές σας ιδέες και απόψεις αναφορικά με το θέμα των δεξιοτήτων. Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ. Κυρίες και κύριοι, είμαι πολύ χαρούμενος και είναι μεγάλη μου τιμή να είμαι κομμάτι αυτής της εκδήλωσης και ανυπομονώ να κάνουμε την κουβέντα μας στο πάνελ πάνω στο θέμα του upskilling και του reskilling, δηλαδή της ανάπτυξης δεξιοτήτων και της μεταξέλιξης αυτών, μαζί με τα άλλα μέλη του πάνελ. Από την ελληνική πραγματικότητα μπορούμε να αντλήσουμε πολλές ιδέες για το πώς θα αντιμετωπίσουμε την έλλειψη δεξιότητων, διότι, αγαπητέ Πρόεδρε, όπως ξέρετε, αυτή είναι μια πρόκληση που αντιμετωπίζει όλη η Ευρώπη, όχι μόνο η Ελλάδα, και έτσι περισσότερο διότι χρειαζόμαστε συγκεκριμένες δεξιότητες προκειμένου να προχωρήσουμε στην πράσινη και στην ψηφιακή μετάβαση. Κατά την άποψή μου, λοιπόν, και αναμένω και άλλοι πανελίστες να το επιβεβαιώσουν, η μετάβαση δεν περιορίζεται από την επιθυμία μόνο να επενδύσουμε από τις εταιρείες, αλλά από την έλλειψη των εργαζομένων που έχουν τις δεξιότητες αυτές. Και βέβαιως αυτό μπορούμε να το εξηγήσουμε, αλλά κυρίες και κύριοι, μάλλον πρέπει να δούμε τις πολιτικές και τις επενδύσεις. Αν δείτε τα δεδομένα, στην Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση έχουμε κατά μέσο όρο απασχόληση η οποία είναι 6%, μιλάει για ανεργία ο μιλητής, περίπου διπλάσια στην Ελλάδα, αλλά οι πιο πολλές χώρες, κατά 77%, δυσκολεύονται να βρουν υπαλλήλους με τις κατάλληλες δεξιότητες. Αυτό είναι ένα πρόβλημα και φαντάζομαι και οι πανελίστες θα επιβεβαιώσουν την κατάσταση αυτή. Σε πολλές περιοχές, σε πολλούς τομείς και ιδίως στις μικρομεσαίες επιχειρήσεις, αυτό είναι ακόμα πιο δύσκολο, να βρουν δηλαδή το κατάλληλο προσωπικό. Όπως γνωρίζετε επίσης, υπάρχουν συγκεκριμένα επαγγέλματα όπως ειδική IT, και ειδική κυβερνοασφάλειας, κατασκευαστικά επαγγέλματα, φιλοξενία. Εκεί απαιτείται γνώσεις μαθηματικών, μηχανικής, θετικών λειψηφόρων και εκεί υπάρχει έλλειψη υπαλλήλων. Αυτό είναι κάτι που το αναγνωρίζουμε και κάθε χρόνο η Κομισιόν βγάζει ένα πακέτο στο πλαίσιο του Ευρωπαϊκού Εξαμήνου. 22 Νοεμβρίου είναι το επόμενο, σύμφωνα με το οποίο η οικονομική προοπτική είναι αμφίσιμη, θα υπάρχει δυνατή ανάκαμψη μετά την πανδημία, αλλά υπάρχουν πολλές άλλες προκλήσεις. Το σοκ από την ενέργεια, η ανατροπή στις εφοδιαστικές αλυσίδες ως αποτέλεσμα του πολέμου στην Ουκρανία. Είναι σημαντικό ότι ένα από τα κομβικά στοιχεία που περιλαμβάνεται στο Ευρωπαϊκό Εξάμεινο έχει να κάνει με τις δεξιότητες, το ανθρώπινο δυναμικό, καθώς για το εξάμεινο αυτά αποτελούν προκλήσεις. Συνεπώς, στο συνέδριό σας καταπιάνεστε με ένα θέμα που είναι πολύ επίκαιρο. Ειλικρινά, η πρόεδρος της Ευρωπαϊκής Επιτροπής πρότεινε να καταστήσουμε το 2023 το έτος δεξιοτήτων. Οπότε να θέσουμε τις πρωτοβουλίες και τις επενδύσεις για το θέμα αυτό στο μικροσκόπιο. Επίσης, αυτό αφορά και την Ελλάδα. Στην Ελλάδα, όπως ξέρουμε, η ενεργεία έχει μειωθεί και πάλι και ειδικά η απασχόληση είναι χαμηλή. Επίσης, υπάρχει ζήτηση για συγκεκριμένες δεξιότητες. Ένα 53, αν ακούσαμε καλά. Δυστυχώς δεν ακούμε καλά τον ομιλητή. Ένας λοιπόν από τους λόγους που πρέπει να εξετάσουμε, κυρίες και κύριοι, είναι ότι στην Ελλάδα μόνο 16% των ενηλίκων έως ηλικίας 64 ετών συμμετέχουν σε τέτοια μαθήματα μετακπαίδευσης. Τι πρέπει να γίνει? Ήδη ανέφερα την ατζέντα μας για την ανάπτυξη δεξιοτήτων. Έχουμε 12 συγκεκριμένους στόχους. Όπως είπα, η πρώτη προτεραιότητα είναι η ανάπτυξη συγκεκριμένων IT δεξιοτήτων, αν ακούσαμε καλά. Έχουμε 12 μεγάλες εταιρικές σχέσεις με διαφορετικά οικοσυστήματα και πάνω από 1.000 οργανισμοί, εταιρείες από όλα τα κράτη-μέλη συμμετέχουν για να προσφέρουν αυτή την υποστήριξη και τους καλούμε και στο συνέδριο που θα διοργανώσουμε θα μελετήσουμε αυτό το θέμα της έλλειψης δεξιοτήτων. Δεύτερη προτεραιότητα της ατζέντα μας είναι να περιλάβουμε δεξιότητες που ευθυγραμμίζονται με τις ανάγκες αγοράς και την προωθούν. Άρα χρειαζόμαστε γνώση για να δούμε ποιες είναι αυτές οι δεξιότητες που απαιτούνται και είμαστε αισιόδοξοι ότι και οι άλλοι τρεις πανελίστες, δυστυχώς δεν μπορούμε να καταλάβουμε τον ομιλητή, δεν είναι καλός ο ήχος, και η τρίτη σύσταση έχει να κάνει τρίτη προτεραιότητα που είναι πολύ σημαντική είναι να δώσουμε τη δύναμη στους ανθρώπους ήδη να επεκπαιδευτούν. Μπορούν λοιπόν να ξεκινήσουν οι ίδιοι κάποιο πρόγραμμα κατάρτισης. Ζητούμε συγγνώμη, αλλά ο ήχος είναι παντελώς ακατάλληλος για διερμηνία. Ζητούμε συγγνώμη, κάνουμε ό,τι καλύτερο μπορούμε. Σε όλον τον 20ο αιώνα, για να καταλήξω σε ένα συμπέρασμα, Κλείνοντας, ο μιλητής λέει ότι το πρόβλημα είναι μια πρόκληση για όλους και πρέπει όλοι μαζί να προσπαθήσουμε και να αντιμετωπίζουμε αυτές τις ελλείψεις δεξιοτήτων που αντιμετωπίζουμε αυτή τη στιγμή.
For the implementation of the year. And so once again, many thanks for having invited us here. I'm very interested in the outcome of the conference and in the panel discussions right now. And I would really like to invite all of you to support and involve promoting activities, initiatives, and in events throughout the year. Thank you many times, dear Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Egbert Holthius, for reminding us about partnerships, about skills alignment with the market, coordinated policies. The only that remains to be done is implementation and follow-up with you. Thank you very much. Thank you. So,
let me now switch to Greek, because I love having a chat with Greek panelists before a Greek audience taking place in Greek. So let's move on to Mr. Protopsaltis. I don't know if this clock is running correctly. Anyway, we're losing some seconds there. Anyway, my first question goes to you. Because it was mentioned before, and we always say so, that what is the role of vocational training and lifelong learning in order to close the skills gap? And especially in the case of Greece, it's not just about STEM or high-level disciplines. We also lack craftsmen and technicians in plants in order to turn them into to make them more productive. We don't have time for many questions, but that's my first one. Yesterday, the Prime Minister visited Tripolis, the city of Tripolis, and he paid a visit to the industrial zone of Tripoli, DYPA, and two specific plants. One is a pharmaceutical company doing some great investments in the region, and a recycling company that's also doing fine and invests heavily. So while talking with the owners of both companies, one of the biggest challenges for them is that they cannot find the right workers in order to support their growth and the new jobs that these investments generate. Last week, no later than last week, we signed a memorandum with Onyx, the owner of Elefsina shipyards, that will operate again after many, many years. So we have another case of a major investment about to take place, and the operators fail to find the right people to work there. Sadly, in Greece, and I'm talking about the staff or the workforce, is not always something that we discuss when investment is being discussed. It's something like an afterthought, although the issue of finding the workforce, finding the right skills, should be on the table since day one of our talks about possible investments. I talked to you about the visit of the Prime Minister yesterday in Argadia and the shipyards in Elefsina. These are just a couple of examples, but that's something I've been listening to many times. I've been hearing about many times in these 3 years of my tenure. And although unemployment is 11.6%, dropping from 33%, a great part of enterprises fail or struggle to find the right workforce. On Saturday, we will hold the 12th Career Day in Velidion Expo Center in Thessaloniki. We have 1,000 jobs by 9,000 companies, and they can't find the right people. They will come to Velidio in order to find the right people. What does this mean? It means that there is a deficient link between the training and formation systems and the needs of our economy, or to put it in other words, we overproduce graduates in fields where there is limited or no demand, and we underproduce graduates in fields where we have a high or increasing demand. And as a result, we are ranking last in the European Skills Index. We have been last for the past 3 or 4 years. And what does this government do in order to deal with this problem? We turn skills to our priority. We invest 1 billion euros to upskilling our workforce. Currently, we have the largest training program of unemployed people ever to take place in Greece. 120,000 unemployed people will be trained in green and digital skills. Very soon, we will have another course of 150,000 employees in green and digital skills, because we recognize, just as Europe does, that the future economy will call for changes in the workforce, and we have to support that as DYPA, the Public Employment Agency. And let me go back to Tripoli, to the visit of the Prime Minister. So while talking with the owner of the company who told us he had difficulties in finding the right people, he didn't know that in the same city there was a vocational training school offering the graduates he actually needed. So the fact that the school was not something that the business world or the businessmen were aware of, the local ones, I mean, it's an example of the systemic failure we have in our system. Sadly, we haven't connected the dots in very simple things so that we can have at least the information flow, so that we know what the company needs, what the enterprise needs, and what the educational system has to offer. We have a long way ahead, but I'm pretty sure that thanks to the bills passed by the government in the field of education and training, we will have new schools, new courses, new specializations, and we have the disdain will stop. We've seen some examples, for example, in Halkida for the upgrade of our F-16, the same with Onyx in Elefsina shipyards. But as you said, it's very important to link the market requirements with educational system. So we're talking about extroversion, stronger extroversion in order to have the alignment with the market, and partnerships, because these things it takes two to tango, because, and you know, our chamber will always be next to you. Mrs. Kasselaki, apart from the needs of manufacturers, of employers in plants, etc., for finding craftsmen, we also need soft skills. We consider them to be a bit of secondary importance. There are also other skills, other needs of an enterprise that will turn middle-level executives to become more efficient in running an organization, in managing people as well, apart amongst others. I'd like to hear what you have to say about that, because these are skills as well. These are not things one may be taught at school, right? So what do we do? Although Mrs. Kerameos the other day told us that this is something taught at schools already, let me say firstly, hello. Your question is extremely interesting, because middle-level executives had to face that in the past, because we're talking about the link between the marketplace and the universities, and that had to do mainly with high-level executives. In the case of middle-level executives, the kind of skills they need, of course, technical skills and the sector-specific knowledge is very important for them to be efficient. What they need is what we call the power skills, are the ones we used to call soft skills. And they are needed at all levels. In order to go more granular, what are the power skills required by middle-level executives? Let me elaborate on that from three specific viewpoints. The first viewpoint: what do middle-level executives do? They are the bridges, the link between top management and the staff already working in the company, or the one to be found. So they are the ones to create value by producing labor and knowledge, given the existing skills they have, in order to implement the top management strategy. In order to do so, they need empathy. They need amazing communication skills and negotiation skills in order to identify the priorities for the strategy's implementation. And themselves, they are more than simple people managers. No. They have also to manage the expectations that come top-down, and they also have to be sentimentally committed, efficient, effective, and they have to follow this trend while at the same time creating, generating value, while being able to transfer reality in a bottom-up way from to the top management, so that the strategic vision of the top management is being realized. And last but not least, they have to handle different perspectives: the suppliers, the employees, the workers, their peers. So they are the ones to have to keep their clear judgment, which greatly contributes in keeping their cold blood, so that they can manage different viewpoints and make them justified, if you like. That's one viewpoint about how they operate. The second viewpoint, it's like a magnifying glass, you know. So the second magnifying glass, we are going through a deep transformation of the labor market. In the past 10, 15 years, we keep on saying that all companies are under transformation, public or private ones. And for the same time, we've been saying that this transformation always fails. Especially after the pandemics in the last couple of years, these transformations are of larger scale, much larger scale. So companies, in an effort, they see that they need more things in order for this transformation to be sufficient. And until recently, they used to say that transformation is digital, so they need more digital skills. Currently, we call it a transformation that includes a green transition. So we need an ESG-related or sustainability-related transformation. So we need the respective skills. But I want to make a reference to the skills as highlighted by a survey that we carried out this year together with Oxford University. It was EY and the university that collaborated about the ingredients that lead to successful transformations. Successful transformations, as it was brightly proven, comes from the way companies handle not just the customer journeys, we call them sentimental or emotional journeys, actually. And the big links of this chain, and the big links in order to understand how our people perceive, experience, and witness this transformation, has to do with their feelings. A time in which we used to say that we are rational beings belongs to the past. Now we're talking about emotions. So data shows that leadership, as well as middle-level class employees or executives that have to materialize this transformation have to be able to communicate and share a comprehensive and single narrative to their people. So they are committed to that. They also have to create this feeling of emotional security or safety for their people, because this security may lead to new ways of working. They also have to be to have an increased adaptability when it comes to the managing style. It's not just about the gender difference. You also have to take into account the age group one belongs to, because currently we're talking about people coming from 5 different generations, right? So we have an even larger distance to cover when it comes to meeting the understanding of the youngster, because they come in the labor market, they have certain skills, or they don't, so they have to cultivate them within a corporate environment. So this calls for a different approach, a diversified one, an approach based on co-creation and involvement. Last but not least, allow me to give you the third viewpoint, the third magnifying glass. That's also based on international data and data coming from an EY and LS EP and the University of Experimental Psychology survey on where well-being stands in our country. Last year, the findings showed that at domestic for Greece, 85% of employees are disengaged. 45% of employees do need to feel connected at a humane level and get the support they need while working from their immediate supervisor. And 85% of the respondents said that there is a need for proximity. They want to feel intimate with their immediate supervisor, the middle-level managers in our case, so that they may deliver. In times in which international and Greek data show that 30 to 35% of people are burned out or brown out. So they seem to be functional, but they are not. So in order for companies to move forward, because currently companies have left behind the issue of being just cost managers. Now they are growth managers. That calls for innovation, and they call for pooling all talents and the minds of people coming from different generations to co-create, to co-produce. Innovation calls for speed. Digital tools, sustainability as a concept have to be grounded in a certain reality. All this, at all levels of management, is something dearly needed, let alone in the case of middle-level managers. They have to have self-understanding. They have to read a lot, because unless you have a self-understanding and unless you know yourself, you won't be able to support either your team that is lacking specific skills and they have to deliver because time is running, or you won't be able to provide people with the right amount of space in order to display their skills, which you have to acquire on the go. You will never get them ready-made. The surveys, global ones, saying that this year there will be some $3.5 trillion loss of revenues, because the skills gap is ever growing. So the way we use our workforce within our companies, and especially the role of the management, of top management, in order to promote practical upskilling, is the elephant in the room. I hope I was okay with my time. Even if you didn't, I think what you said was so useful and beautiful. So you made us feel really great. My heart feels soothed right now. That's why I gave you some more seconds, because many of the things you said are a bit optimistic, that companies are not interested only in cost management, because in the past restructuring used to be just about laying people off. In our case, in my case, I used to think, okay, you want to cut down costs. Why don't you stop working? Why don't you go out on the streets and do something else? The same way the same way companies have to learn that we have schools in their city, the same way employers have to understand that I cannot give you some kind of injection in order to give you the skills you need. So you don't feel under pressure by the top management or the low-level employees and other things. I'm really happy that soft skills turned into power skills in the hope that we will understand they represent no weakness. So, moving to our beloved Christina Leimoni. I just met her today. I really loved it. Same wise, we used to know each other from a distance only. So, she is the COO for Microsoft. She is as a member of the Greek diaspora, and she returned back. And she will talk to us about digital skills. We spend so much time talking about digital skills. However, they are absolutely necessary because it feels as if we talk about digital skills, we're having a chat on reinventing the wheel. I mean, every time or turning on the light, you don't feel like you are introducing some amazing innovation when you just find some digital skills or you talk about them. I'd like your allegory because digital skills we're talking about affect the entire population, starting from the average smartphone user or internet user, from the average citizen that goes online to file an application or to carry out his or her e-banking tasks, but it also relates to those people who build these applications, who build the experience for the end user. It also relates to those people who perhaps want, as the demand shows and our report shows, are the people who want to change. And that's something that we all know, that people in the coming years will have to change their careers many, many times to do the so-called career shift. You discussed about the challenge of transformations. Let me tell you that in the first couple of months during the pandemic, there was an evolution in digital transformation that in the past would take at least 2 years to happen. So pandemics accelerated also the talent quest in digital skills. So the GR for Growth, which is our investment plan that also had to do with physical infrastructure, a great part of our plan had to do with training 120,000 citizens, fellow citizens of ours on digital skills. The good thing about that program was that it covered a big gap in terms of skills and requirements. Talking about both pupils and students who use technology in order to have access to knowledge and to carry out their research activity. And so research in universities is being promoted, but it also relates to our partners, our customers who are invited to build solutions for their end users. So the better equipped they are, the better trained they are, the better experience will be the one that the end user will get once entering in a browsing or using an application. We had an amazing program with the public administration. We trained 3,500 people working, public servants, working in some IT-related departments. So we are actually boosting the service we offer to our fellow citizens. Together with Mr. Protopsaltis, we worked with the unemployed. We had a program on digital skills for the unemployed. What was amazing was that we found out that people really long for digital skills and certification of the acquisition of such skills. Acquisitions coming not only by colleges and universities, but by organizations such as Microsoft and other software developers. Mr. Protopsaltis, I remember we received 2,500 applications, and we had the trouble back then how to cover for all of them. The attendance rate was 98%. 60% of them were women, because it was mentioned before that women tend to fail in STEM-related professions. And soon we will come up with a story. We will present a story of a person who used to work in the banking sector. He was laid off. He followed our program, he got some additional certification at the next level in the next level, let's say. And quite recently, he got recruited by a company. And one of the reasons he got recruited was because he invested in his own reskilling and got some additional certificates. So he started from the world of finance, and he made it into the cybersecurity world. So these are the things we observe, and we also touch upon other areas like the unemployed, Gigi girls, and we are also working on other programs to boost female presence in the IT world. This has changed a lot in the past, but for those who love history, let me tell you that Stanford University, when they first launched their IT courses in the US, the rate between women and men was 50-50. So something happened in the meantime, but we truly support that. In our case, 55% of our top management team is made of women, and 45% of our employees are women. So we have some programs like DG Girls and DG Youth that will support young girls who want to be inspired and make it into the IT world. Dear Mr. Protopsaltis, you have these schools, and you are asked for providing technical training, and apart from extroversion and the power skills and the digital skills for those who don't want to study, don't want to go to school. What are your plans for the future? I think we have to start with the fact that we have to recognize that the old model, as it used to apply during my years, I go to the university, I get a job, and then I'm not going back to the classroom, is dead. There's no such model anymore. We have to keep on learning things throughout our active lifetime. And this is something quite important to recognize, because currently our entire system, unfortunately, has been built on the basis of the old system. We all know that we are well beyond that. We are now into the world exactly as I described it. However, our system has been designed in order to meet the requirements of all time. So unless we give the opportunity to people to be upskilled or reskilled during their active lifetime, how are we to thank the people you just described, just mentioned, who because of restructuring or because of any other reason, they had to change their job, find another job or whatever. Let me highlight, because Mrs. Leimoni gave us some really interesting bit of statistics with respect to the participation of women in our programs. Let me say that 75% of all people taking part in the training program for 120,000 unemployed are women. 66% of the unemployed are women. 75% of the attendants are women. So we have an overrepresentation of women, which shows that people are hungry for more training. They want to learn more things, and that's quite encouraging for me. The fact that we launched a program to cover 80,000 positions, and now we have to find a way to cover 120,000 positions, this shows that there is some demand, right? Having said that, and given that we don't have much time, I think that given that we have businessmen in this venue, I think the business world has a share of responsibility. Sadly, in Greece, we are ranking last when it comes to in-house training. That's something that the Association of Greek Industrialists has recognized the past, but let me reiterate that. Companies have to invest in reskilling or upskilling or training their workforce. It's not a cost, it's an investment. You have to see that through this viewpoint. It's not a cost center, it's an investment. It's something that will give you additional productivity, etc., etc. So we have the share of responsibility on behalf of the state, yes, but companies, on their part, they have to keep on investing that. I'm an optimistic person by nature. That's why I believe that we will have to respond to these needs. It's a global trend. Unless you catch up, you will be left behind. So I think that, in fact, we will have to proceed with changes very quickly. The same that happened with the digital transformation amidst the pandemic. We took huge steps ahead, very quick ones. The same way in the world, in the case of, in the field of training and vocational training, we will see changes that should have happened in a very short time. They will take place in a very fast way very soon. I truly believe in the reskilling as carried out, as promoted by employers, but we talk very little about that. And, my dear Christos, unless employers, given the role models that your company may represent, don't give the right, do not pave the way, not just because you are big, but because you have the right to do so, you're entitled to do so, because no priest will change the church. That's freely translated. As Mr. Protopsaltis said, it's a lie. I've been in the world of human resources for 40 years. I've been listening to the same stuff again and again, but currently we're living in the era of in the human era, not in the era of technology. It's the humans who decided to bring in AI, digitalization, etc. So we have to think about how we can turn these humans into someone who's not being intimidated or is afraid not to work. No, we have to turn them into individuals that feel engaged and they are inspired to work. It's one thing to make these people feel engaged and make them want to offer, not because they are afraid of being unemployed. Okay, we don't have a good safety net in Greece for unemployed, but because they will feel proud of that and they will not get burned out. So, the things you just told us, Ms. Kasselaki, are very optimistic. The fact that we're now talking about the sentimental journey of our employees, and we will follow suit of that. So, and that's something that not only major companies have to do. It's up to the state, up to the government to help. And it's up to the SMEs to follow this path and not leave it just in the hands of the big companies like Microsoft because they have a big CSR. No, it's not CSR. No, it's not CSR. It's part of our investment plan. It's not part of our CSR plan. Exactly, because the other day I was talking about that. I don't like the CSR concept because I don't believe that you have to give just bits and pieces of what you're left with. No, you have to have a systematic approach to offering to others so that our 800,000 SMEs will introduce reskilling in their core business. 3 words by its lady in order to conclude.
Well, 2 words from me, actually, because it's a part of what you said. What we see, and through the LinkedIn survey, we can see employees 7.6 times more than last year wish to switch jobs. And the main reason for that is for their own development. So the investment of an employer in reskilling allow them to recruit their own employee for a new job that they may have or a new position. When we're talking about the digital transformation, this means that the very operation and function of the company itself changes. So some jobs and positions may become redundant, but some new ones are created. There is nothing better than to look for a talent that can do the work today and to reinvest on someone we already have in our company and the growth that they can to undertake these and assume these positions. This is what investment is all about for us in reskilling, for the companies themselves, in-house, for their own staff, to re-recruit them instead of scouting for new skills. Now, Mrs. Kasselaki, you have the last word. Now, I would like to say that we and our customers are very glad to see how much they invest in reskilling. Through the creation of academies, through the creation of databases. Not just for the KPIs, but what is the skill set that is the future skill set on the basis of which flexible academies, through self-learning and through coaching and through in-class training, etc., and with badges and everything, create accreditations that help in internal mobility of their career paths, and also, in essence, even people who do not have the skills who come from the job market, if they have the appropriate profile and they have interest to learn, for them to be able to go in and be channeled in the chain of command. Now, we εκτιμούμε πάρα πολύ που μείνατε μαζί μας, κύριε συνάδελφε. Αν έχετε να πείτε και εσείς με μία πρόταση να κλείσετε αυτά τα οποία είπαμε για να ξεκλείσουμε με τον άνθρωπο που άνοιξε την συγκεκριμένη συνεδρία. Μιλάτε σε μένα, λοιπόν. Δυστυχώς δεν μπορώ να προφέρω σωστά το όνομά σας, επομένως μάλλον δεν καταλάβατε τι εννοούσα εσάς. Όχι, σας ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ. Θα έλεγα ότι αυτό που έμαθα από αυτό το πολύ ενδιαφέρον πάνελ, με όλες τις αναλύσεις που έγιναν ως προς το πώς να αναπτύξουμε καινούργιες δεξιότητες και πώς να έχουμε αυτήν την έννοια της διαπίστευσης, διότι αναπτύσσοντας δεξιότητες θα πρέπει να αναπτύσσουμε δεξιότητες οι οποίες μπορούν να χρησιμοποιηθούν από τις επιχειρήσεις, να χρησιμοποιηθούν σε ευρωπαϊκό επίπεδο. Επομένως, η πιστοποίηση και η διαπίστευση είναι πάρα πολύ σημαντική. Έμαθα πολλά από αυτήν την ενδιαφέρουσα συζήτηση και για μένα ήταν επίσης μια απόκτηση καινούριων δεξιοτήτων. Ελπίζω να μπορέσουμε να συνεχίσουμε τη συζήτηση μαζί σας, στο πλάι σας, σε αυτό το πολύ σημαντικό θέμα στην Ελλάδα, αλλά επίσης και για το υπόλοιπο της Ευρώπης. Πολύ ενδιαφέροντα πράγματα. Σας ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ για την πρόσκληση να συμμετάσχω σε αυτό το πάνελ. Σας ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ και είναι τιμή μας που παραμείνατε μέχρι το τέλος της συνεδρίας. Κρατώ από αυτά που είπατε ότι πρέπει να παρακολουθήσουμε το όλο θέμα. Κρατώ το στοιχείο της συνεργασίας, το οποίο είχαμε όλα αυτά τα χρόνια και θέλω να το διατηρήσουμε, και πραγματικά ήθελα να ευχαριστήσω όλους εσάς που ήσασταν εδώ μαζί μας και είχαμε αυτή την φανταστική συζήτηση. Εγώ προσωπικά έμαθα πάρα πολλά πράγματα. Ευχαριστούμε. Thank you very much.